President Biden has arrived at Joint Base Andrews after flying in from Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. He will now go to the White House, returning there for the first time since ending his re-election bid on Sunday. Let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, we know the president we see him walking down the steps right now. Nancy, if you're with me, how is the president doing? We have an update from his doctor.
We do have an update from his doctor, and it is good news, Lindsay. He says that the president's symptoms have resolved. He says that the president never had a fever. He says that his lungs are clear. His rapid test is negative, so he'll continue to be monitored for any recurrence of illness. But all in all, he's basically doing fine, is the long and short of it. And you saw him walking down the steps of Air Force One right there. He certainly looked better than he did when he was climbing the steps of Air Force One in Nevada just about 5 or 6 days ago. He even stopped and told reporters there on the tarmac that he's feeling better than he was then.
Yeah, and he did not answer questions about dropping out of the race or questions about Vice President Harris. But Nancy, what do we know about what the president will try and communicate to the American people in his Oval Office address tomorrow night, especially amid Republican calls for him to step down now, saying that if he's not fit to run, he's not fit to serve?
Right. So I think he's got a couple of goals with this speech. First, obviously, releasing a statement to the American public while holed up at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, recuperating from COVID is not how he ever wanted to announce that he would not be running for re-election. He never wanted to announce that he was not running for re-election. He wanted to keep going. And so he wants to come back here to the White House and explain in a more fulsome way on camera, in public, to the American people why he has made this decision. And then beyond that, you're right, there are all these calls from Republican lawmakers who say, hey, if he can't run for another 4 years, if he's decided to pass the torch, should he be there for another 6 months? And I expect that you'll hear a very strenuous argument from the president tomorrow night about why he is still fit to do the job, in his view, until January of 2025.
Nancy, of course, we know that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also in the United States this week, set to meet with President Biden, I believe also set to meet with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Right. What do we know?
Yeah. Well, we know that all of those individuals have very different views on Netanyahu and on the way that he has handled this war. And beyond that, all of them are distracted to various degrees by the political situation in this country and the fact that Harris is now launching her own bid for the White House. So President Biden is set to meet with Netanyahu here at the White House on Thursday. And Netanyahu is also, according to Donald Trump, going to be traveling down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with him there.
What do we know about the president's upcoming schedule and how much he will be, I guess, endorsing on the campaign trail Harris, but also the Democratic ticket and what he views as his administration's successes?
I think it is still a work in progress. He was supposed to go out west this week, the end of this week, for some fundraisers. Those have now been postponed. He's going to stay here at the White House, but then he is going to Austin, Texas on Monday, we just learned, for an event at the LBJ Presidential Library in Austin, Texas. That's an event that he was supposed to do a couple of weeks ago, but then it fell right after the assassination attempt on former President Trump, and he canceled it because he was receiving briefings here at the White House. So that is now going to go forward on Monday. But beyond that, we just don't know much right now about how active President Biden is going to be on the campaign trail. It will likely depend on his workload, on how he's feeling post-COVID, and on whether the campaign decides that it is more valuable to have him out there raising money and supporting the VP, or whether it makes more sense for her to keep some of that spotlight to herself and to have him here at the White House. So those are all calculations that are being made in real time, at the same time that they are trying to reorient the campaign, Lindsay, around Harris, perhaps bring more people in who are close to her, who can channel her vision and make sure that this campaign looks the way she wants it to look for the next 105 days.